Hello again, BookTube. Welcome to Quiet Calm Books, a quiet, safe space to talk about books. Today I'm going to be talking about my favorite fantasy/horror book series of all time. If you didn't watch my bookshelf tour and hear me fangirl about Derek Landy for way too long, this is an urban fantasy series set in Ireland, and it follows the shenanigans of a skeleton detective, Skulduggery Pleasant, and his partner, Valkyrie Kane. The two end up crossing paths when Valkyrie's uncle dies and leaves her his estate, and this happens on like the first page of the first book, so it's not a spoiler, don't worry. The two become partners as they traverse the world of magic and mages while also fighting off monsters. These books have enchanted me since I was 11 years old, and I will pretty much tell anyone who will listen about them. You can literally ask any of my friends. And the series that I'm talking about is none other than Skulduggery Pleasant. So if you're not a fan, you can just leave right now. I'm just kidding. Just kidding, please come back. I'm actually here to try and convince you to read my favorite series. It's not well known in America, but the fans that it does have are very committed, and for good reason. Now, you might be asking yourself, Peyton, what is so great about this obscure children's fantasy series? Well, some readers grew up on Harry Potter and they swear up and down that it's the best book series they've ever read, partially because it probably encouraged their belief in magic and their creativity. While I'm not particularly a Harry Potter fan, sorry, but Skulduggery is to me what Harry Potter is to other readers. So if a walking, talking skeleton who throws fire and makes witty remarks is not enough of a reason, then here are my 7 reasons why you should read Skulduggery Pleasant. Oh, I almost forgot. Before we get started, I want to show off my Halloween decorations / autumn decorations on my bookshelf. It's only September, but like, it's never too early for Halloween in my opinion, so I just have a couple, but I'll show them off to you. So first, I have this cute little wooden sign. It's got 3 little pumpkins on it, and it says 25 cents. I also have this adorable little fox. He's very crinkly, and he also has a furry tail. I named him Cider, because I think that's a cute full name. And I'm not sure what this is. Like straw or sticks or something that he's made out of, but he is so cute. And then next I got a couple of styrofoam pumpkins. These were like 98 cents each, but these are like more Halloween-y, more like spooky ones because they're orange and black. And then I also got 2 that are more like fall. So this one has like gold speckles. And then this one is cool. This one has like a weird crackly pattern. And it's brown and yellow speckled. So I know I just did a little show and tell, but I'm actually gonna do another quick one and show you all of the Skulduggery covers. I know I talked about them a little bit in my bookshelf tour, but I didn't actually pull any of them out. I have a lot of different covers, some from America and some from the UK, but most of the cover art on these is done by Tom Percival, and I absolutely love his work. I feel like the bright colors and the dark backgrounds, especially the ones with Skulduggery smack dab in the center, have this very uncanny, otherworldly quality that I think really fits the book's vibe. It's difficult to talk about the actual plots of each book or to even differentiate between them because pretty much everything is a spoiler, so my 7 reasons involve more of Derek Landy's writing style, characterization, and representation rather than me just discussing the plot. And if you're curious about the plots, then you're gonna have to read them yourself because I'm not gonna spoil anything for you. They're too good. They're too good for me to spoil them. Reason number 1. Strong female characters not only actually exist, but are accurately portrayed and are never either diminished or vilified for being women. It's almost sad that I have to list this as a positive attribute when it's kind of something that should just be expected, but so many male fantasy writers get this wrong, and if there's a female heroine in Skulduggery, then she's able to fight just as skillfully as a man, no questions asked. Even though the series' title character is Skulduggery Pleasant and Valkyrie Kane is his partner, she's always treated as his partner and never as a sidekick. Valkyrie is very obviously the main character, and Skulduggery is the title character, and that makes them equals. In one of Derek Landy's old posts on his blogs Under Duress, he said that he specifically chose to make Skulduggery's partner a female because there would have been no question about whether or not she was Skulduggery's equal, whereas a male partner might have felt this need to prove himself to be as capable as Skulduggery was, and Valkyrie already knew she was just as capable. A confident female character like Valkyrie is so important today, especially considering that these books are marketed towards mature children, teens, and young adults, and women in all of those categories are often told by society that they can't do anything by themselves if they're young and female. Those tropes are subverted excellently by Landy without being dismissed as non-existent in real life. There are 3 female characters in particular, Valkyrie Kane, Tanith Lowe, and China Sorrows, that I think have very distinctive voices and are fleshed out extraordinarily well as characters. Oftentimes in fantasy books, we see women who are essentially carbon copies of each other, or who are treated as special for being more masculine, and as much as I hate to use this phrase, quote unquote, not like other girls. This is never the case in the Skulduggery books. The female characters are not only treated as actual human beings, but as strong ones that rely on themselves and their female friends just as much as their male friends. The tone of a conversation never changes in these books just because a woman is in the room. Like I said earlier, I tend to see a lot of fantasy writers vilify women's bodies and basically say that they use them as weapons to seduce those around them, and there are some characters in Skulduggery like China Sorrows, who uses glamour magic to essentially hypnotize people with her beauty, but she is respected for her power, not for her beauty, and she's very clearly the one in control. Some of these characters' attributes, especially China's manipulation and Valkyrie's recklessness, might not make for the best childhood role models per se, but that's not exactly the point. The point is that the women in Skulduggery taught me you can be good, you can be bad, you can be whatever you choose, and it doesn't have to be something that's dictated by those around you. Reason number 2 is fighting and action scenes that are clearly well researched and realistic. Derek Landy's action scenes have always been my favorite part of his writing style, and that's because I feel like I could sit down with a big bag of popcorn and watch it all play out right in front of me. You can definitely tell the difference between an author like Derek Landy, who has done his research on hand-to-hand combat, and an author who has not. Some fantasy or action writers who don't know what they're talking about in terms of combat will kind of just have 2 characters throw magic at each other, or stand and stare at each other in a really boring standoff. And of course there's plenty of magic throwing in Skulduggery, I'll get into those disciplines later, but the point is that Landy does not rely solely on that. Of course, characters do have weapons like swords and guns, but Landy's writing is so descriptive that he doesn't need swords or magic powers to make a boss battle look cool. Maybe it's just me, but personally I've always liked the realism of hand-to-hand combat, of characters ducking and dodging and aiming and feigning, and he does that amazingly. And when I first read this book, I was also kind of like, if 12-year-old Valkyrie can defend herself with her elbows and fists, then I can do it too. Valkyrie is absolutely not a placeholder for the reader, but her relatability makes you feel like you could have been there too. I'm so sad that the sun's starting to go down, so I'm gonna have to continue this on another day. For you all, it'll be like a 2-second cut, but bye! Hi everyone, I'm back. Reason number 3 is morally ambiguous characters, especially the heroes. Now, this might not be a plus for everyone, but I personally adore morally ambiguous characters, so it definitely is for me. It's hard to say much on this point without spoilers, so I'll just say this. Skulduggery Pleasant has never been a book series about conventionally good people. We, as the readers, are kind of led to believe that Skulduggery and Valkyrie are good people because they're the characters we follow, but if you pay attention, every other character in the books speaks about them and their partnership with a mixture of awe and terror. From book 1, Derek Landy has had no qualms about making it very clear that Skulduggery does bad things. You would not want to be on the side opposing Skulduggery Pleasant because you would not make it out alive. The main fault in Skulduggery and Valkyrie's partnership has always been their willingness to sacrifice themselves and the world for each other. They would kill, torture, and pretty much do anything to make sure those they love are safe. But how many people in the real world would be willing to do that too? I'd say quite a few actually, and to us, doing anything, sacrificing anything for those you love, and at any cost is considered heroic, maybe even likable. We as readers are led to believe that Skulduggery and Valkyrie are doing these things to bad people for the greater good. even though it's often Skulduggery and Valkyrie themselves who are ruining the lives of innocent people, even if it's on accident. Like any human being, Skulduggery and Valkyrie struggle to forgive themselves, and they're constantly reminded of the mistakes they've made. They're the ultimate anti-heroes. They're not portrayed as such, and they always believe themselves to be doing the right thing, which makes us as the readers unsure what that right thing is. And sometimes, and maybe worst of all, they forgive themselves for what's unforgivable. Reason number 4, and the numbers don't really mean anything by the way, so this is one of my favorite reasons, is unique monsters and magic systems reimagined in creative ways. For a fantasy series to really captivate me, it has to have magical disciplines in some form or another. I've never really preferred fantasy stories that focus on political intrigue over magic, and Skulduggery definitely focuses on magic and the power you gain just by believing in it. Can you tell how excited I am to talk about this one? I'm sure you can. I love magic, okay? The mages in Skulduggery are able to choose from a number of magical disciplines to focus on, so they have all this power at their fingertips. Some of the magical disciplines include elemental magic, my personal favorite and definitely what I would be if I was a mage, as well as adept magic, necromancy, energy throwing, healing, teleportation, dimension shunting. I'm sure I missed a couple because there's so many in those books, but those are some of the ones that you see most often. So elemental magic is pretty familiar to most fantasy fans or anyone who has seen Avatar. Basically, mages have influence over the elements of earth, wind, water, and fire. Now in Avatar, benders have influence over only one element usually, except for the Avatar, which is supposed to have influence over all 4. But in Skulduggery, most mages have influence over all 4. Some choose to specialize in one or another, but why would you when you could have influence over essentially the whole world? Adept magic is a bit more complex because mages focus on one special skill to develop, such as drawing magical sigils or walking on walls. And necromancy, of course, is death magic, which is treated as one of the most dangerous disciplines in the Skulduggery universe. For me, the uniqueness in the Skulduggery Pleasant magic system comes from that specialization aspect. There's pretty much every type of magic imaginable in the Skulduggery universe, but each mage is only allowed to choose one, so you get to see how some drastically different powers and skill sets hold up against one another. That wide variety of magic means that not all mages think alike, and the magical discipline that they choose also seems to shape their character and their understanding of magic as a whole. The magic in these books is amazing, but Derek Landy is a horror writer as well as a fantasy writer, so his monsters are also quite impressive and they never fail to freak me out. This is also why I thought this video would be perfect to post like right before Halloween, because Landy is quite the horror writer. His gore is not for the faint of heart. His monsters are super creepy. He's got classics like vampires and zombies, but he also creates his own creatures that are even more terrifying. So for instance, we've got the Hollow Men, which are basically evil, humanoid, animated bags of skin filled with gas. You have the Grotesquerie, which is a patchwork Frankenstein-like creature made of other monsters. And you have the Faceless Ones, which are evil faceless gods that drive people to insanity. Just to name a couple of my favorites. Wanna say hi to the camera? Luna! Say hello! Who is that? Say hello! Say hello! Love you. This is my puppy, Luna. She's crazy. Reason number 5 is excellent character development. There's so many incredible characters that I could focus on in this series, but so far I found myself mostly talking to you about Valkyrie and Skulduggery, and that's because they're the 2 characters that make these books what they are. When I first started reading this book series, Valkyrie was 12 and I was 11, which means that as I continued to read the series, she grew up alongside me. Now, maybe my love for these books just comes from that alignment, but I don't think so. I think it's very rare to find a good book series where the main character not only gets significantly older, but also matures and becomes more aware of the world around her. When Valkyrie is 12, she's still fairly unsure of herself, and all she knows is that she's fascinated by magic, just like I was. When she's a teenager in the middle of the series, Valkyrie becomes sassier and even more rebellious, and she also has this phase where she's dating a bunch of really toxic guys, and the books call them out as such. Some of them are supernatural beings, but other than that part, I'd say dating toxic guys is something that a lot of teenage girls end up doing. By the time she's become an adult in what Skulduggery fans refer to as Phase 2, which starts with Book 10, Resurrection, Valkyrie's treatment of relationships has changed, she's recognized her mistakes, and she's significantly matured. The books also start to become more politically aware around Phase 2. This might just be partially because times have changed a lot since the first book was published in 2007, but I also think it aligned well with Valkyrie growing up and becoming more aware of social and political issues. Valkyrie's transition from child, teen to adult is one of the most realistic that I've seen in fiction, yet it's so slight that you barely notice. I should really save this for last, but I have to talk about it now because it's so important and it's really what makes these books, and that is the development of Skulduggery and Valkyrie's relationship. Over the course of their time together, Skulduggery changes from something like fun uncle and mentor to Valkyrie's best friend to the only person in the world who truly understands her. Their relationship is so unique and really hard to explain, but no matter what the plot is, no matter what the monster of the week of a particular book is, it's always Skulduggery and Valkyrie, and together they are absolutely terrifying. Reason number 6, portrayal of mental health that feels so real, the air gets thicker when you read. Now, this reason is probably discussed a bit less among Skulduggery fans because, in my opinion, it primarily relates to what fans call Phase 2, the 4 most recent books released. But most Skulduggery fans will agree that something changed between Phase 1 and Phase 2. We're not sure exactly what, but the mood just kind of shifted. It caused a lot of readers to believe that the series had changed beyond repair and to even quit reading it altogether. And even though this is my favorite series, no, I'm not afraid to talk about the controversies and the negative aspects that people have brought up about it, because every book series has its good points and bad points, its moments of extreme popularity, and its moments where it kind of takes a backseat, and that's totally okay. And well, I think part of the shift in Derek Landy's writing style might have been due to his writing goals generally changing over the years. It took me a few books of Phase 2 before I formed a coherent thought about what I really thought was happening. To me, it seemed like most of the book's changes in mood had to do with Valkyrie. I knew she'd grown up, but it seemed to be more than that. It seemed like she wasn't approaching magic and fighting with the same sense of confidence and glee that she had when she was a kid, like she'd fundamentally changed as a person. After the events of books 4 through 9, Valkyrie was mostly feeling a lot of guilt and regret, and it was only once Landy introduced this magical music box that Valkyrie used to forget her worries that I realized the music box could possibly be symbolic of depression or anxiety medication. Valkyrie was facing more than the typical main character's sense of righteousness and regret. She was feeling very real mental health repercussions from traumas that she'd experienced, which I definitely won't go into here for spoiler's sake, and I hope I haven't said too much already, but it's done in such a subtle way that it's almost imperceptible until this introduction of the music box. And especially for a children's fantasy series, I think it's a great portrayal of mental health struggles. Reason number 7 is sense of humor and political parody. Derek Landy created 2 very intelligent and confident characters in Skulduggery and Valkyrie, and that makes for some interesting witty banter. So in between fighting monsters and saving the world, they'll kind of poke fun at each other just to show that they don't take themselves too seriously. Their sense of humor tends to be the kind that takes you by surprise, and as these books do deal with some heavy topics, like I've mentioned, that banter certainly evens things out. In Phase 2, we also see the introduction of a few short chapters of political parody, mostly focusing on the American president, Martin Flannery. And I know I've mostly talked about Valkyrie and Skulduggery so far, but Derek Landy does write from the points of view of lots of side characters, and even from the villain's point of view sometimes, especially later on in Phase 2. In terms of humor, I prefer witty banter to political parodies, but Skulduggery has both. whatever you're into, and neither one of them consume the plot or characters in their attempt to amuse you. So that is it for today. I know I didn't do Skulduggery Pleasant justice in just 7 reasons, but I hope that my passion for them and the impact they've had on my life comes through in this video. And if these books are completely new to you, then maybe I've convinced you to give them a go. And if you are a longtime fan, let me know in the comments why you decided to read Skulduggery and what you love about the books. This is only part 1 of my Skulduggery Pleasant videos. I'll probably have a few different videos in between this one and the next one, but in the next Skulduggery video, I will be showing you my bookish tattoo, talking about my experience getting tattooed, and how I decided which tattoo to get. If that's something you guys are interested in, if not, I can do something totally different. I'll probably do some more book hauls in the near future, things like that. So thank you so much for stopping by and have an amazing day.